Hey guys, it's Maris. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees. We're gonna have another nighttime edition book review with some beautiful black candles that are, I don't know how they're not just pouring wax over, but they have this like really beautiful buildup that I should probably do a close-up of because it's really fantastic. And tonight's subject is Poppy Z. Brite's Wormwood. I picked this up because I am doing a readathon, and one of the prompts was to read an LGBTQ author. And when I was doing my research to find a book, this popped up in the feed, and I was like, you know, I've heard of this author's name so much through the years, and I never had a chance to read it, so I want to do that now. And I'm so happy that I did. So Wormwood is actually an anthology of 12 stories. It was originally printed in 1994, and its previous title was Swamp Fetus, which I wish it still had because I actually kind of love that. But once the book got picked up by a traditional printer, the name was changed to Wormwood. There's also some really nice illustrations in this version that I have. I don't know who did them, so I'm thinking maybe the author did. So these stories, if I was to wrap them up into a really nice little coffin for you, I'd say that they're studies. They're character studies of like relationships, romantic relationships, familial relationships. There's also a lot of stories about band life in these stories. A lot of stories about musicians, and kind of like wrapped around that, but also flowing out of that is urban horror. And it's mixed with sex and gore and this like kind of esoteric thread through all of them. And it definitely has that like dusty cemetery, mausoleum, voodoo, New Orleans vibe in there. The standout stories for me though were Angels, How to Get Ahead in New York, The Sixth Sentinel, Missing, and my absolute favorite, Calcutta Lord of Nerves. Angels is about two men who have car trouble and are trying to find someone to help them out. And they're in the backwoods, somewhere in the country, and they find this house that's just like all by itself, but it's there, and they're hoping someone can help them with their issue. And they meet these two twin boys. They're probably like 9 years old, but they're very unusual. And one of the guys kind of forms like a relationship with them. The Sixth Sentinel is about young prostitute Rosie and Jean, who have a strange relationship. I guess you could say it's a little otherworldly because Jean is a spirit of some type, and Rosie is just a young woman who's kind of beaten down by life. And this story is mainly about that relationship and sort of how it plays out. How to Get Ahead in New York is about two guys in a band who have their first show in New York City, and they find themselves in over their head at Port Authority because the homeless are just a bit intense. Which I felt to be pretty funny because Port Authority is pretty crazy. Calcutta Lord of Nerves. This one was by far my complete favorite out of all of the stories. It was visceral, beautifully written, poetic. I don't know what it was. It was only 12 pages long, I think. And I think it is the longest story that's in the anthology, I think. It was just something that I could imagine so well. It was fucking rad. That's all I have to say about that story. I will not forget that story anytime soon. It was inspiring, and it was fucking fucked up, crazy, you know, intense, but it was the shit. The story starts with the beginning of our character's life. His birthplace in Calcutta, his parents, and then how all of that stuff in between led him back to Calcutta as an adult. And it's a world that is being overrun by the dead. So obviously I can't tell you a lot about these short stories because they're short stories, but the writing is just beautiful. It's so beautiful, it's so poetic, delicate, and at other times it's like just reeking with odor and bile and blood and you know, other bodily fluids. It's visceral and has an amazing ability to place you within the atmosphere. It's astounding. It's something. He's not just telling you stories. It's like this full sensory inner and outer smells, textures, but they're not these tedious details that you kind of get bored of really quickly. They feel really intimate. And it doesn't just feel intimate because it's first person. It's because of the interactions with the characters. They feel unfiltered and really, really natural. There are a lot of character studies, examinations into their desires and vices. It almost feels like autobiographical fiction a little bit, but I like that. I think how I feel about this is the overall tone of the anthology for me is like you're experiencing, or you're going somewhere that's seedy and dark, but it's really exciting. And the energy makes you feel giddy, but wary and kind of scared at the same time. It's sort of, I don't know what you would call, like adrenaline-filled excitement or something, because you don't know what's going to happen. There were quite a few stories about bands and musicians that felt very legitimate. It was obvious to me that the author has often gone to a lot of underground live shows and hung out with musicians. I was a guitarist and singer in a metal band for a while, and I toured a lot and played a lot of shows and seen a lot of shows, and a lot of what he's writing, usually that stuff is like really cheesy or contrived by other authors. But in this case, it was obvious that he's had these experiences firsthand. There were some really cool quotes that I wanted to kind of talk about. There is this thin hand scene, which I'll call, which is in, these are, I think all of these are kind of from the Calcutta story, but there's like a scene there where the character is walking down an alley and there's these like 5 pale, scrawny, skeletal hands kind of come out of a dark alley reaching for something, for food, for alms, for something. And just the way that just the way that it's described, it's like, oh, it's chilling, it's sad, and it's beautiful. There was also another quote that was probably the best quote I've ever read of the smell of rotting flesh. I really, really liked it. It just was more original. Usually descriptions of death are like, or the smell of death is like the sweet smell or something, like something that's kind of talked about like that. I'll read you that quote really quickly because I think it was just really cool. It says, "But lingering in the stairwell was an odor stronger and more foul than any I had encountered today. It was deep and brown and moist. It curled at the edges like a mushroom beginning to dry. It was the perfume of mortal corruption. It was the smell of rotting flesh." Just brilliant, brilliant. There was another description like that about severed hands. I'll let you just, I hope you read this story. I'll let you discover those two on your own, but there's just some amazing, amazing gems in there. Like those type of things make me want to draw them or paint them or make stuff from them, and I love that so much. I use my handy dandy new rating system. If you guys haven't heard me talking about this, I'll post the video in the cards at the end if you want to check it out. I just wanted to find a new way to grade or rate my books that I'm reading. So I'm using this quantitative scoring system to do so, and you can customize a template if you like. My score was 97 points out of 114 points, and that equals to a 4.5 star read. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this review of Poppy Z. Brite's Wormwood. If you guys would like to see more videos like this, give me a like and a subscribe, and I'll keep them coming. I hope that you have a really great week and everything goes super well for you, and I'll talk to you next time.